Hi everyone, and welcome back to the last lecture for chapters 1 and 2. In this lecture, I'm going to highlight some of the important vocabulary that you need to know when you start a research study, and we're going to discuss the beginning stages of a research project. So first, let's discuss how to start planning a research study. The wheel of science shown on this slide depicts the traditional process of research. The process is led by a theory, which seeks to describe the relationship between two or more things. For example, in criminology, our theories generally focus on what characteristics of a person, place, or event cause criminal activity to occur. From this theory, scientists develop a hypothesis. A hypothesis explains what the scientist expects to find as the relationship between the two variables. In order to test whether or not their hypothesis is true, a scientist will construct a research study, the research design stage, and then they'll collect data, the observation stage. The scientists will then analyze the data and generate findings. These findings will then be used to identify whether the original hypothesis was correct or not. If the hypothesis was shown to be correct, then the scientists may use this piece of research to support the existing theory. If the hypothesis was proved incorrect, meaning that the findings didn't support the relationship that was expected to occur, then the scientists may either revise the theory or redesign the experiment to see if the findings remain consistent. In science, the rule of thumb is that you're never trying to prove your research. Instead, you're trying to disprove your research. If, over time, scientists are unable to disprove it, even when they use different research designs, different research subjects, and different research hypotheses, then the theory can be accepted as a law of science. The theory into law process is much more successful in the physical sciences, where the reaction remains consistent over time. If I drop an item out of my hand, it's going to head towards the floor. This happens no matter who's dropping the object, or what object is dropped, or where the object is located. That's why the theory of gravity is known as the law of gravity. In social science research, specifically criminology, we're dealing with behavior, attitudes, and other characteristics of human subjects. It is unlikely that any social science research will achieve the consistency to be coined a law of human behavior. However, different criminological theories have differing degrees of support based on how many times the theory has been tested and how consistent the results are across populations, time periods, and locations. The first stage of beginning a research study is to select a research topic. Your text puts it beautifully. A research topic is simply a subject that you are intellectually curious about and you want to investigate further. Oftentimes, as a student, your research topic is picked out for you. You may be told by a professor to pick a particular theme based on the course material, or you may be asked to work on an already existing project where somebody else has already picked the research topic. If at all possible, it's important to try to have some say in the selection of the research topic yourself. That's because research is a long and meticulous process. And if you don't have a passion or an interest in the subject matter, then you're likely to get bored and lose interest. So make sure that if you are going to work on a research project, try to select a topic that's based on your personal interest. You want to be able to enjoy the project, not be pulled along unwillingly. Sometimes I get students in this course who come up to me on that first day and they already have that burning passion. They know exactly what they want to research in the class. They know what they've already thought about it. They know what they want to get out, and before they've even registered for this class. So this class is simply an opportunity for them to learn how to do the research or to learn how to do it better. And you may be one of those students. You may also be one of those students who comes into my class with no clear interest. If I've asked you today to pick out a research topic, would you be able to do it? If you don't have anything in mind, your textbook discusses different ways that you can figure out a good topic for you. Published research is one of the most common. The nice thing about published research is at the end, they often explicitly say what type of research should be done next. For example, in my own research, I often have a problem with generalizability. We'll get into what that means later on in the course. But in my research, because of this problem, I outright state, this is my issue, and then I discuss ways that my research could be done to make it generalizable. So when someone reads my published article, they have a research topic delivered on a silver platter to them. Other ways to help you develop a research topic are to look at existing data. My graduate students do this often because they have a limited amount of time to complete their research, so they usually try to use data that someone else has already collected. When I say data, I mean anything that contains information. It could be pictures, numbers, descriptions, recordings, observations, anything, literally anything. You can also find research topics by looking at existing theories, reading books or magazine articles, watching films and documentaries, listening to other research presentations, and even examining events within your own life. If you don't want to start a project from scratch, you can look for someone to work on a research project together with. Did you know that UT Tyler offers special funds for undergraduate and graduate students who want to assist with a professor's research project? If you know a professor whose research is interesting to you, asking them to help can be a great way to gain some research experience. It's also a great way to buff up those resumes. Whatever you do to find a research topic, it's important to remember that the goal of research is to develop new knowledge. This means a good research topic will help you create knowledge that doesn't exist already. In other words, don't reinvent the wheel. Find a way to make your study unique. Like I said before, you are always trying to prove a theory wrong until you've tested it under all conditions and it always remains true. So even if someone else has done the research that you want to do, trying it out on a new population or using a new type of analysis can still generate new knowledge. Once you have decided on your research topic, the next step is to identify what the purpose of your research will be. This is the goal of your study. What do you hope to achieve that you want to contribute to the literature? Identifying the purpose is important because it impacts what type of research design that you're going to use during your research study, and that's going to impact the rest of the wheel of science. The first type of research is exploratory research. The goal of this type of research is self-explanatory. The goal is to explore. Exploratory research is done with the intention of becoming familiar with a new situation or topic. By its very definition, exploratory research means that the research study is looking into something that hasn't been examined by someone else. It provides brand new research to the field. Because of this, exploratory research is usually the first step when scientists are exploring a new subject. The challenge of exploratory research is that the researcher, by definition, doesn't know much about the subject in advance. So some types of data collection are more difficult than others. For example, it's difficult to create a survey and to collect data in an exploratory study because the researcher might not know enough about the subject to create the survey in advance. For this reason, exploratory research often involves face-to-face research. However, the information learned from an exploratory study can then provide enough information for a future, more in-depth research study. The second type of research study is description research. The goal of a descriptive study is to describe a situation, an event, or a person in depth. Don't be fooled, however. Description research isn't just someone going outside and saying, "Look, it's raining." Researchers doing a descriptive study use a methodological approach to provide a full description about the specific focus of the study. A prime example of a descriptive study is the United States Census. It means the goal of this study is to describe the entire United States population at one point in time. The books here are also examples of descriptive studies. American Swastika was actually written by one of my professors in my PhD program, Pete Simi. Simi's research focuses on the white power movement in families and groups. One full chapter of Pete Simi's book is how white power families use symbols of the white power movement, like Nazi paraphernalia, in their houses as a way to reinforce the movement with their children. For example, he talks about how in the houses that he went to, photos of Hitler and the Nazi swastika would be mixed in with family mementos in the living spaces of the white power members. The goal of Dr. Simi's research was to provide a description of these intimate spaces that are rarely seen by outsiders, with the hope that this research would lead to a better understanding of the white power movement. The other example here is a sociological classic, William White's Street Corner Society. In his book, he describes the Italian slums, focusing on the social structure and the politics of the gangs and other young people in the neighborhood. Explanatory research is probably the most common type of research. Explanatory studies hope to explain a cause and effect relationship. Explanatory research often focuses on an outcome of interest and then attempts to determine what factors lead to or predict that outcome. For example, in criminology, the outcome of interest is usually something related to crime, like criminal conviction. An explanatory study that looks at criminal conviction might try to identify what factors make a criminal conviction more likely, or how criminal convictions are impacted by specific factors such as age, race, socioeconomic status, etc. Since this type of research is the most common, a majority of the research articles that you're going to read in your educational career will most likely be explanatory research. In our course, we're also going to focus primarily on explanatory research as well, but just know that there are other types of research out there. The final type of research that I want to cover is evaluation research. This type of research focuses on a specific program or a policy. Evaluation research asks one of three different questions. An evaluation can be done before a program is put into place in order to determine what type of needs are present. It can be done during a program or a policy's implementation, and that's the question of how does it work? Or it can be done after a program or policy has been implemented with the goal of determining whether or not that made a difference. Evaluation research is a special type of research, and we're going to focus on this type of research specifically towards the end of the semester. Okay, so the last part of the research process we'll talk about in this lecture is how to create the research question. Research questions provide the specific question that you are trying to answer with your research study, and that's going to be used then to guide your research design choices. When writing a research question, it's important to consider it carefully. One of the biggest problems that students have is they create a broad, too big research question. Asking something like, what causes rape? That's so huge. It would take years and years to research it. Instead, you want to make sure that your research topic is narrowed down to a specific topic. So instead of the broad, what causes rape? You could say, how does alcohol impact campus assault? Notice that it's also looking at the same research topic, but it's a different, narrowed down research question. This is a research question that can actually be used to create a research study, as opposed to the huge question that would require more than one experiment. You also need to be practical when you're creating a research study. Your budget, your time, and your resources are going to impact how big or how narrow a research question you can handle. Researchers at Harvard have been running this study called the Adult Male Development Study for over 70 years. They've collected interviews, medical information, and a whole bunch of other data from a large cohort of men. As you can imagine, a lot of resources are needed for this type of research. When you and your group members pick a research question for the activity in this course, you're going to have to create something a lot more narrowed because you don't have the time and resources to do a 70-year study. Finally, always remember to consider your own interest level in the topic and the usefulness of this research to the broader community. You want to find something interesting so you don't get bored or burned out on your research, but at the same time, you also want to pick a research topic that's going to contribute to the field. This concept goes back to the concern about reinventing the wheel. Unless you are redoing a study on purpose to test its replication potential, which does happen, you have to consider whether or not your research question will provide something new to the field. All right, well, that concludes the lecture videos for Chapter 1 and 2. Thank you so much for watching.